it finally happened. Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. Hey, it's mail day, and we've got a couple of good stories to share tonight. So a couple of months ago, I did the Estate 360 auction, and I won a few cool guitars, and I needed to clean them up because they were in pretty bad shape. I finally got around to doing it for the last ones that I hadn't gotten to, but when I opened this SG case, my heart just absolutely sunk. I got the case shroud. The thing looked fine. It cleaned up beautifully. I mean, look at these frets now. Compare them how they were when we first unboxed it. Not so good, super dried out fretboard. So have no fear about these frets anymore, but it's the headstock. I went to the headstock, lifted it up, and was like, uh-oh. There's finish checking all over by this neck. I thought maybe one of my kids got down in my working area, dropped the case or something, because I didn't remember seeing this finish checking before. But as I continued to lift it out, the bubble wrap was stuck to it. And the lacquer was wet, like it was just put on, not dried yet. So I saved this piece of bubble wrap to show you guys. There's a chemical reaction between this that caused the lacquer to melt again. I got caught slacking on that one. It's not good to have bubble wrap exposed to your guitar for an extended period of time, depending on the style of bubble wrap. Here's what I found. The bubble wrap that has more of a soft matte feel to it, it's not sticky to the touch, it has a softness to it. That's the kind that burns Nitro. Whereas the stuff that I personally use, it has more of a sticky feel to it. It's not all matted over. I've been using this for a good 5+ years. I have this in the cases of some of my personal collection guitars, and it's sat in contact with it for multiple years. I've never had problems with this. So if you're curious who I use, it's forbubble.com. I am not sponsored. They do not advertise it as Nitro safe, so use at your own discretion. I've had good results with it, but I only shop with them because they're local, but they do offer shipping if you're interested. So I was pretty gutted by that because otherwise this was a really clean example. Now thankfully, I let it sit for a while and you really don't see it too much now. Pretty much all that's left is the finish checking on the headstock because it must have been like the fumes or something that caused that. And the bubble wrap caused burn marks on the nut and the fretboard binding. So yeah, be careful what bubble wraps you use if you're going to put one by a guitar that utilizes a Nitro finish. But if you're in the market for an early 2000s Angus Young SG, you can find it on my website now. Besides some finish checking on the headstock, it's honestly really clean. And when I reviewed and documented this model, I thought the pickups were upside down, but this one was done the exact same way as my review model. So maybe there's more than one that was upside down, or maybe the information online is just wrong as to which pickup goes where. But this one's awesome. But wait till you see our next ones. But before we do that, we got a couple of small packages. So almost everything we're talking about today could have been the title of this video. I've received a mysterious package from Gibson. And it was a couple of days after those new 150th anniversary Epiphones had come out. So I was like, oh, I really hope it's one of those. But then it's one of these tiny boxes. So I have a feeling they might have saw one of my videos that something happened that wasn't so good. But we'll see what's in here. Some sort of a white cloth. And is it what I think it is? Yes, Richie Faulkner non-scratched glasses. So in my review and demo for that model, when I had unboxed that guitar, they had came scratched. Now the keen eye viewers did notice I dropped them because they were tied up in that pennant, to which I just have to say, guys, I have very soft carpet. There's no way those got scratched by me dropping them that second. What likely happened is in transit, the pins somehow got rubbed up against them and scratched it. It happens. That's why I wasn't really all that upset because I knew if I contacted them about it, they would just send me one, but I didn't even have to contact them. That was nice. So thank you, Gibson. And oh sweet, I didn't realize these were attached to those sunglasses. The switch tip that was also missing. But I'm really excited for this next one. It's a mystery gift package. This comes compliments of the guy who shared the Leo Scala Flying V with us before we shipped it off to him as a new Guitar Day purchase. He said he was really happy with the service, and I've helped him with a couple of other guitars as well. But he says that I said I wanted one of these things on the show, so he thought he would buy it for me as a nice little gift. So let's see. Oh no! This is like mafia level stuff. Oh man, it's a horse head, but no, this is actual Gibson headstock, it looks. Oh my goodness. I love it so much. Thank you. I will cherish this forever. This is one of my favorite gifts I've ever gotten. So I think we saw these on like an auction Lyran episode or something. I mean, this is the headstock to a 2005 Les Paul Studio, but they mounted them as trophies. But hey, would you look at that? That's a Les Paul Supremes truss rod cover. That's pretty nice. But man, this poor fretboard definitely needs some conditioning. Frets aren't too bad. Well, there we go. I'd say it's looking a lot better now, especially those frets. Might seem silly to waste your time polishing something like this, but I really appreciate this gift. It's awesome. And I was initially thinking it was just like an ebony Les Paul Studio, but it's more so an oxblood finish, and you've got all the finish checking showing now, so that's pretty cool. But when you get it in the light just right, you can see it is just kind of a very dark maroon color, especially as compared to here. But what I found really interesting is there's not actually a truss rod in this. They must have took it out. There's just like a sheath in its place. Next, let's see what's in this tiny package. This one's been waiting to be unboxed for a while. Oh, okay. Some sort of a new old stock chrome pickup cover, originally retailing for $24. Wow, that's kind of expensive. Yeah, it's a little bit crusty, not the best of condition, but it works good with my new old stock parts collection. I just can't wait to see them all hung up together. They look great. But now let's check out the rest of the guitars that we cleaned up. I do believe I've decided I'm going to let this one go. It's the Union Jack Explorer. I'm just to the point where it's like, do I really need 4 of these? I could have some other rare models rather than just stockpiling all these. And it's the very nice, desirable stop bar tailpiece. This thing cleaned up phenomenally. Because when I had first unboxed it, it really just looked beat up when we got it, but it's all glossy and shiny now. And besides some decal shrinkage, as is common with these and the finish checking, it's really not in that bad a shape. But most importantly, look at the frets again and the condition fretboard. Then I did find one of these screws to the heads of the tuners, otherwise it's just one. Then you've got a little bit of stand rash along the edges on this. And then unfortunately somebody moved the strap button at one point in time. But overall, a pretty nice example of one of these things that hardly ever shows up to the used market. There's a different one that just recently showed up for $15,000 after I talked about them, and then it ended up selling. So yeah, if you need to learn more about the Union Jack Explorer, you can check out the full review and demo. But the final one from the Estate 360 auction, we are just going to save that one for a full review and documentation because that thing was terrible. The oxidation on the frets required 3 separate cleanings, but we're going to review and document that one tomorrow. So that leaves us with 2 stories tonight. Lately, I haven't been documenting the sales stories of my guitars just because I used to do it with my GoPro and then my GoPro broke and the new GoPros just aren't any good. But the stories behind these guitars are just too good not to share. So, this was a race towards the finish at the end because there were 2 guys that were wanting it. One was a private user, I think he was in like California. He wanted to buy it and play because he's loved this guitar and he's always wanted one. It's the Ronnie Montrose Collector's Choice. I'm very glad I gave this guitar a chance because it changed my opinion on the Collector's Choice series, so you can check out the full review and documentation if you happen to have missed it. But this is the recreation of the STP Burst. So we had a deal made and I was just waiting for payment, but he decided that he wanted his luthier to check it over. And so he had to line up dates on that. And I told him, fair warning, I can't hold it until you pay for it. And he said, okay, yep, I understand. And then it was one day before he was planned to make the payment, a big dog came in and snatched this. I was very shocked to see an offer from Guitar Point Vintage Guitars in Germany. Their old videos with Ollie Neander are classic early guitar YouTube. So even though he doesn't necessarily do a whole bunch of demos with them anymore, I told him to tell him hi because I've always loved his playing. But I thought it was kind of strange that they were particularly making an offer. So I kind of figured they might have had a buyer already lined up for this and they just wanted to buy it through them, which is fine. I do similar stuff for helping people get things back to the USA and vice versa. But no, then they told me this is going to the guy who actually owns the STP Burst. So he's going to have the Collector's Choice and the original guitar, which is just absolutely perfect for this thing. This is one of the best Les Pauls I've had. So it's going to take a trip over to Germany and meet its maker, so to speak. So let's get this thing packed up. And now our last guitar. I hate to say I sold this, but I did. The The offer was like the absolute least I would possibly consider accepting, because this would have made a great display piece in the future museum, but at the end of the day, I decided to let it go because most people that look at this won't understand what it is. They would just think it's a new old stock Angus Young signature SG, not all that important. They wouldn't realize that it was one of the early prototypes that has all the differences. And in fact, that's actually kind of why I wanted to bid on this one, so I could get photos to A/B compare them. So I will try to do that before it gets shipped off here to a very affluent SG collector. Seeing them side by side, you can see what we were talking about in the review, how this had such a thinner finish as compared to the full gloss production models. The pickups ended up being completely different. That was the biggest selling point on these, besides having the Angus branding on a normal one versus the full AC/DC band branding on the others. And then, once again, our headstock character is vastly different. This one was hyper simplified, but still looks good. But this one has a very prototypical look to it. And it was very rock and roll, smoking and stomping heads. Whereas this is kind of pretty PC for the most part, as much as a problem child can be anyway. So farewell, my fun little SG friend. But I am very happy I was able to document this very early prototype of the very early days of Gibson USA signature SGs. We're actually going to learn about a different signature SG very soon. That is the other most famous SG guy. So unfortunately, we are saying goodbye to this guitar today, the only official AC/DC signature SG. So you guys tell me, did I make a mistake selling this, or would you rather see like a snake pit Les Paul hung up instead of one of these? I could always keep that other Angus, and I think most people get just as much viewing pleasure out of it. Alright, Troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, consider subscribing. I post videos like this every day. And you might even enjoy this next one.